When it comes to affordable divers, the market is absolutely packed. There's so many options out there, especially when you consider the fact that microbrands nowadays enter the market with dive watches because they're a sure thing, everybody loves a dive watch, and they sell. In fact, there's people out there that build an entire watch collection just out of dive watches. And if you'd have asked me a while ago, what is the best affordable dive watch, I would have said without a shadow of a doubt, the Seiko SKX. But there's a couple of things wrong with that. It's discontinued, and now if you can find one, it's a bit more expensive. It's a bit pricier than it originally was when it was released. But if you ask me now, what is the best affordable dive watch, I might actually have a different answer for you. Let's take a look. This is the Orient Kamasu, and for me personally, it's not what this watch does or how it looks. Well, a bit of that as well, but the impact that it had immediately after it was released, because almost instantly it became the must-have budget diver. When you consider the fact that Seiko watches and Orient are both part of the Seiko umbrella, they do operate independently. And the Kamasu is proof of that, because when Seiko discontinued the SKX, they followed up with the famous 5KX, which is not a bad watch by any means, but I don't think it's the watch that everybody else wanted after the SKX. What did Orient follow up with after the Mako 2? The Kamasu, and the Mako 3, also known as the Kano, which is a slightly larger version, which is kind of similar to this one, but also small differences. Today, we'll be taking a look at the Kamasu, which, by the way, means Barracuda, and personally, I think that out of the two, this is the one to go for. Let's go through some dimensions and wearability. The case diameter is 41.5, the thickness is 12.9, the lug to lug is 46.5, and it also has these female end links, so it actually won't stick out too much. And the lug width is 22, and sized up for my wrist, it weighs 154 grams. Although 41.5 millimeters doesn't necessarily translate into a big watch, I do feel that it does have some heft to it, and it does feel like a bigger watch. Those two aspects combined give it wrist presence, and I really like that. It doesn't feel top heavy, and it confines to the wrist really well. The finishing on the case is pretty decent. It's made out of 3-on-6L stainless steel. When you consider the price point, it's not going to win any awards, but it's done well. When you compare it with the competition, your Pro Masters or your SRPD lineup or your 5KX as you'd call it, I would say it's on par. A combination of polished on the sides and brushed on top of the lugs gives it a nice balanced overall look. And one thing I think it doesn't particularly have a balanced look is the crown at the 3 o'clock position. It's signed with the Orient logo and it's protected by 2 crown guards. Although grippy enough and easy to turn, I feel that it looks a bit small. Not a big deal, but I think the Mako 2 had a similar issue. I want to talk a little bit about the bezel now, because I feel that it has these little small design aspects that make the watch suited for all kinds of environments. Not just your typical diver watch with a more tool look. Of course, the aspects I'm talking about are these small little notches in the bezel where there aren't any numerals. I feel that even though they're small things, they tone down the overall look of the watch. As far as the bezel itself, unidirectional 120 clicks with an aluminium insert with a loom pip at the 12. And the loom pip itself is not sticking out, it's slightly below the insert, which I think is a nice touch because there's a smaller risk of it coming off with time. The bezel action for me resembles the sound of a BMX freewheeling. It's solid, no backplay, and it almost aligns perfectly, as you can see, slightly to the left but hardly visible. Turning the watch around, we have the screw down caseback, stainless steel, giving this watch 200 meters of water resistance. Not much to see here apart from these two engraved dolphins in a pool. To be honest, I know you can't see this, but I would have preferred it just to be simple and plain. Not the worst thing in the world, but between this and the logo, I don't know what I would or wouldn't take. Anyway, moving on. Moving on to the dial, because I think that in terms of design, this is where all the money and time was spent. First of all, we have a sapphire crystal covering it, which is an improvement over the Mako 2. I went for the red one, and I think that one of the best things about it is that it looks great from all angles, and it looks great in all levels of light. There are a few dials to choose from, but I went for the red one, partly because I don't have this color in my collection, and partly because it looks a bit classier. The sunburst effect really brings this to life when the light hits it. The indices are all applied with an upside down triangle at the 12. Everything's big enough so legibility isn't an issue. Silver style sword hands with an arrow tip for the hour. And another thing that this red version has is matching silver seconds hand. Normally with the other color variants you get a red tip for the seconds hand, but since this dial is already red, you still want it to be visible, so they made everything silver. As you'd expect with a watch like this, being a diver and all, there is loom. Although it's pretty decent. Weirdly enough, I don't know why I was expecting a bit more. That being said, it still does a better job than most watches in the same price range. And if I were to pick on something on this dial, it would probably be the Orient logo at the 12 and the day and date window. I think with the logo, you either love it or hate it. Although it's not the most attractive, it doesn't particularly bother me. As for that date window, I think they just could have designed it slightly better. Maybe just leave the day function. Not the worst thing, but it kind of sticks out a little bit. And speaking of functions, this watch is powered by the automatic Orient caliber F6922. This can be found in the Ray 2 and Mako 2. It hacks and it hand winds around 40 hours of power reserve with a 21,600 vibrations per hour, 22 joules and a stated accuracy of -15 to +25 seconds per day. I think that the fact that you're getting an in-house design movement for around $200-ish is incredible. Like, this really shows the value proposition here. The last thing that I want to cover here is the bracelet, because although it's not terrible, you can tell that this was on the cost-cutting list. You're getting a 3-link oyster style, brushed all around with polished sides. Adjusting this should be pretty easy, you just have push pins. Although you're getting solid links, which is great, you're getting folded end links and a press clasp with a safety and double pushers to release. Plenty of micro adjust though. Personally, I didn't mind the bracelet that much. I had much worse, and to be honest, it's actually quite comfortable, so it does a pretty decent job. I would suggest if you get this red version, try out a couple of different straps because this color makes it a super versatile piece. To sum it up guys, If you're looking for an entry-level diver for around $200, I think there's no better option right there for the price, honestly. I mean, Orient have been around for years and they know a thing or two about making watches. Overall, this is a great improvement over the Mako 2 if you have that already, one being the sapphire crystal and the fresh design. This has loads of potential for an everyday watch. So that was it, guys. That wraps it up for today's video. Let me know in the comment section below what do you think about the Orient Kamasu. Which one is your favorite dial color? I personally prefer the red one that I have here. And also, if there is a better option for around $200, which one is it? Also, let me know in the comment section below. Also, please click a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't so, and if you don't want to miss any future videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.